This is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
Welcome into another episode of 21 Questions. You ask the questions, we have the answers. I'm Ken Swanson here with my dear friend Joshua Briscoe. Joshua, hi, hello, how are you?
Hi, Kent. I'm good and great and fabulous, and I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to answer some questions from the Discord that I post in all the time and love, and that you resent and don't ever acknowledge. So I'm really happy to get to my people in the Discord.
First time on the Discord for me in weeks after I dunked on you for not. Josh, before we get started, I was watching you do names with announce the names of the winners of the raffles with my son, and he just started singing Astronaut in the Ocean, and my introduction to that song was you.
How is that true?
It's true. And I don't
think my introduction to that song might have been Tucker.
Oh,
I don't know. That just seems true.
We're giving him too much credit. No, I don't want. I don't want to give.
I'd hate to give Tucker too much credit. We're just a couple of sleepy boys just doing a podcast together. We don't want to acknowledge Tucker or anything. Just
No, not at all whatsoever.
Society.
Whatever. Yeah, it's a society full of sleepy boys, and me with the big logo is the sleepiest boy. But yeah, I don't know why that. It was just so funny. It was just like that's like a full circle moment because I didn't know that song until you somehow introduced it to me. I don't remember exactly how.
It's not like something I could do, but I just have no specific memory of it.
And here's the funny thing. The memory I had was I wasn't sure if you liked it or not.
Yeah, me neither. I'm still not sure if I like it or not. Total mystery to me.
That's perfect. Well, thank you everyone that asked some questions on the KCSN Discord, the aforementioned KCSN Discord, where Joshua and I are just on all the time, on way more than Craig and Maddie are, for sure. But no, you guys, as part of subscribing to the KCSN Substack, you get access to the KCSN Discord. That's where all the questions go. And that's what we are going to be answering today. We start with Julian K. Will any of the current wide receivers not named Rashee Rice still be on the team next year? What do you think, Joshua?
I'll say yeah. I think Justin Watson can keep doing a lot of Justin Watson things. 2-year deal for him.
Yep.
Sky Moore is a rookie contract, like cost controlled. They would have to be so egregiously out on him to just cut him loose after 2 years. He's got a second round pick at wide receiver after 2 seasons would be brutal. But also they don't like playing him anymore. So I'm not going to rule that out entirely. But I think I would say that that Watson and Sky, obviously in addition to Rice, like they said, I think that would be the trio. But I think that might be it also, unless I'm missing something obvious.
No, that's the right. I think that's the right list. Sky, maybe they try to trade him at the offseason. It's maybe a little pick swap where you get something back if they just don't see him in their plans. Like it could be good inventory to have as a wide receiver 6, but he's probably having to play special teams. Like I think his role changes a lot next year if he's back because they just haven't been able to find like any production whatsoever. D Wiggy asks, will the Chiefs fire Matt Nagy after or during this season? Wide receiver drops are one thing, but sloppy play is a clear indication of coaching ineptitude. Okay, so no, I don't think they're going to fire Matt Nagy. And no, I don't think I'll just be honest with you, I don't think the blame is appropriately ascribed in this answer that you gave, D Wiggy, all due respect. I understand, there are a lot of pieces to a coaching staff and where accountability lies. I do think Eric Bieniemy definitely had, a better pulse on some things when it comes to accountability. Then I think, I think they're missing that, but I don't think it's entirely falls on Nagy or Andy Reid's shoulders. I think there's just got to be a lot of assessment in the offseason about that wide receiver group and if they are going to be held accountable and if they have the right person in that room specifically or people in that room. Joe Blaymatter could still have a big role for all we know, who's now the passing game coordinator. So I don't know. I don't know if that's necessarily, I don't think it should be just thrown at the feet of Nagy, and I don't think that they should move on from him either.
Yeah, Nate made some awesome points on Monday's Only Weird Games about the coaching staff and the specific issue of Kadarius Toney lining up offsides all game. Now, that's something you would like a wide receivers coach to notice the same way Dan Orlovsky noticed it, looking at it after the fact. So I would be stunned if they fired Nagy in the offseason. I would be less surprised and a little interested to see if there is some shuffling on the coaching staff. There's always some. guys end up at different positions. Sometimes it's for the sake of the coach. Sometimes it might be for the sake of the players. But I bet we see a slightly amended coaching staff somewhere along the lines, a positional coach, or again, maybe if Connor Embry ends up being an offensive quality control assistant next year, we'll know. Like, we will have learned some things about how the Chiefs do all of that, but it won't be.
Spread game analyst Connor Embry.
Yeah. What's Brad Childress up to? Bring it.
It's bring him back. Put him in the receiver room. Gooby35. How many games this season have the Chiefs been beat versus beat themselves? Oh man, I think they beat themselves 4 times.
I was leaning towards saying 0, that was not their fault, but that's kind of the standard of the team that you are. The teams that won were there to pick up the scraps, which is all you can do as an underdog who lets a better team self-destruct some. I would have a pretty hard time. I like the Bills might have the best argument, honestly, in terms of a team that just like won the game, and that was still with all the offensive issues we've seen time and time again. Turnovers against the Lions, turnovers against the Broncos. The Eagles are good, but obviously something happened in that game. I can't remember. And then the Packers just seems like there was a few things. Self-inflicted issues. So I might honestly at this point say they're 0 for 5 or 5-0 for beating themselves.
I think they were favored in all 5 of their losses too.
Yeah, I believe they were.
So like, I mean,
it wasn't the Eagles' best game, even though they're a very good football team. Like there's a lot of room for that.
I don't think the Eagles are a juggernaut like they used to be. I don't think the Chiefs are obviously a juggernaut like they used to be. This is a different just NFL than we've seen in the past. So like, it's funny we're talking about all these losses and I mean 1-score games and there's just a lot of self-inflicted wounds keeping the Chiefs from establishing their dominance and clear dominance in the entire NFL. At
least the entire AFC, man, it's all right there, which makes it even more frustrating.
Still not even out of reach. Like that they could still wind up with the 1 seed, which is ridiculous. But I mean, here we are. Right C214. Are we sure Brett Veach is actually good at his job? I see him consistently listed among the top tier GMs, and I've never been on board with this opinion. Yes, I do believe that Brett Veach is good at his job, and I do believe he's one of the best GMs in the National Football League. And it's so funny because the Chiefs have won a Super Bowl in this calendar year. It is still the calendar year in which the Kansas City Chiefs won a Super Bowl. And I mean, look, you can pick a few issues here or there. He built one of the best defenses and the youngest defense in the National Football League. Rashee Rice was a great find, and obviously, I think we all agree that they needed more at the wide receiver position. They just needed a stable presence, a stable veteran there. Who knows? And this is not me necessarily pushing blame on to Brett Veach, but we've seen enough of him to know that he's going to fix what this team needs. He's going to take issue and try to really fix things. He had a ginormous contract situation he had to deal with the entire offseason where the player he was dealing with actually held out all of training camp and into the season. Who knows if that restricted what they were able to ultimately do with the receiver spot, I don't know. So, no, I think Brett Veach is still good at his job. I still have a ton of faith in him. And even this draft class has been good. Connor, Wanya Morris, Rashee Rice. Come on. He's still good at his job.
First round pick doesn't play, but I mean,
that's, hey, look, the Chiefs,
I'm not trying to close the book on Felix. It's just, you picked 3 good examples, and I was like, who was the first? Oh, yeah, play right now. I think that's by and large right. I do think it's hilarious that Brett Veach is always either the best GM in football or a terrible GM. There's never room in the middle there.
Yep.
And he exists in the middle. Not smack dab middle, not like average. I think he's an above average general manager, but he's not completely above reproach, which is a frustrating thing to have to bash your head into. It's like, hey, he'll fix the problems he finds, but is it a good idea to pay $25 million a year or so to a guard and then to restructure that contract time and time again to where that's where you're borrowing some money? Is this Juwan Taylor deal going to look like a horrendous thing in the future? And none of that is Brett Veach doing. Look, I don't want to talk about 2020 NFL draft. I think that'd be a silly thing to do. But there have been a couple of unforced errors here and there and some pretty, kind of countercultural choices in terms of the Clyde pick to a bunch of money for a guard to drafting linebackers with day 2 picks 3 years in a row. That ends up with a really good linebacker group. Best linebacker might be on a 1-year deal as a free agent this year. at least one of your two best linebackers. But I think there were choices made there in terms of like, it's a fair criticism to say that Brett Veach has not drafted very many skill position players because he's drafting less quote unquote valuable positions in some instances over his tenure. Which again, like that's calculated, right? We're going to take linebackers and running backs who we think are better than their draft spot because their positional value fell down. For the last few years, that's not been the case. Last two seasons, last two drafts, it's been corner, defensive end. Those are positions, even if George Karlaftis is only ever a good defensive end, that's still useful on a rookie contract. So
Yeah.
I think he's still evolving as every general manager should be. I think he's a very good GM. I think it's okay to criticize some of his stuff. And I think he is just as aware as anybody that this team needed a more real GM replacement.
Oh, yeah. And that's what makes me wonder if, some of the situations that they were in this summer might have,
Matthew, the receiver question in the Discord that I wonder if we get to here, I think will also play into a lot of this.
Speaking of the 2020 draft, who would you prefer as a free agent? T. Higgins or Mike Evans?
Yeah, I just, Jamar Chase, you can never get a number one receiver like that when you pick late. Justin Jefferson, you can never get a Justin Jefferson pick at 32. T. Higgins, you couldn't have had in 2020. I mean, I understand. I think I have not done a ton of thinking on this, and so I'm prepared to want to change my mind in actual offseason mode. But I think contractually, I'd rather have Mike Evans. I'm a little bit afraid of trying to like T. Higgins might end up being the highest paid receiver in this free agent class, which might make him among the highest paid receivers in football on the true open market, right? Like, I'm not missing something there. I'd rather have maybe the souped up DeAndre Hopkins deal and see how long of a contract Mike Evans would need. So for the Chiefs specifically, I think I'd go Evans.
I think contract and team fit Mike Evans makes more sense. And I like T. Higgins, but I don't know if the Chiefs would utilize T. Higgins to the full capacity that Joe Burrow is, where he just, throws things up on a back shoulder and gives him a chance. Obviously the Chiefs have used that a couple of times with Rashee Rice, but that's not the staple of their offense. That's not how they operate. That's not really what they tend to try to do. Mike Evans, I think you can move him around more. I think he is a much more advanced route runner. I mean, he's one of the best route runners in football. Being a guy that big and all that, it's just he's a super talented guy. I would take Mike Evans. I think he just makes way too much sense in every sense.
And then you can still draft a receiver again if you want and keep building up that group.
I think because I was doing this in my head a little bit earlier today before seeing that question, but I think Rashee and Justin Watson are definitely back. Sky Moore, we'll see. And then I think Kadarius Toney probably back as well.
I should have mentioned Toney. I would put Toney in that group also.
That was out of line for us, or off the line for us to forget him. That's Kadarius Toney infamously lined up over the line.
But you mean by an inch or two? Pretty sure that's what Andy Reid said.
Yeah, maybe a foot. He glanced at the sideline enough while he was still trying to line up, so that counted.
Did you see the Orlovsky video about all of this?
I have. Yeah. Check out this week's Casey Laboratory for all of my thoughts, Joshua.
Yeah, great point. Sorry. It posted yesterday.
It posted yesterday.
Yesterday. That's right. I haven't gotten to catch it yet because sometimes KCSN works like the MCU, where it's like these shows are happening then, but they take place here and they're released. So, I can't wait to go back to yesterday's show and listen to it. And I apologize that I wasn't able to listen to it before today's.
Yes, exactly. So totally that. Anyways, I think they're signing a veteran receiver, and I think they're drafting a receiver high this year. And I think that's going to be more than enough. And I think the Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl next year. So there's that. Kay Gumminger asks
Chris Jones and L'Jarius Sneed. I think that's going to be tough.
Go back and listen to next week's episode. You're gonna find news on L'Jarius Sneed in yesterday's episode. Duh.
Good, love it.
Yeah, he totally signed an extension. Kay Gumminger asks if this year is cooked.
No. Yes. It's It's been in the pan for a little bit. This year's warm. This year is hot to the touch, but I don't think it's cooked yet. 'Cause I think the whole AFC is like lightly broiled right now.
I think if this was last year, it'd be cooked.
Yep.
But it's not last year.
The Bengals should be winning the AFC right now, and they don't have their quarterback. And their backup quarterback is still looking pretty good, but like that, this feels like there should be an AFC North year.
Yeah, I mean, but the Bengals are fourth in the AFC North right now, and Lamar Jackson's healthy, and like this is just a weird year. That was too much of a shot at Lamar Jackson.
Yeah. There were a lot of teams that didn't want him this offseason. Remember that? Remember when the Falcons were like, we don't want Lamar Jackson?
Yeah, you sure about that now? You chose Desmond Ridder and Taylor Heineke. Sure about that?
I'm not sure about that.
C-Bones, out of the 3 failed experiments at wide receiver, Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney, and Marquez Valdes-Scantling, recency bias aside, which one of those failures hurts this team the most this year? I appreciate
what
that
I was referring to earlier.
Oh, well, I appreciate that we're all kind of like it's pretty much failures across the board for all 3. I mean, at least sitting for 67% of the way through the season. Anyways, please continue.
I think this has an absolute definitive first, second, and third place. I'm saying that definitively. Now you should answer, and then I promise I will not change to just to appease you.
Okay. I think we're gonna be on the same page.
I think so too.
The one that hurts them the most, I believe, is Kadarius Toney, the one that was touted as wide receiver 1 by, I mean, like let's be honest, like James Palmer, fantastic reporter. He's well connected within the Chiefs front office, and he facilitated the belief given to him by the Kansas City Chiefs that Kadarius Toney has wide receiver 1 potential, and he hasn't sniffed that. So I think that's number 1. Sky Moore 2, because I mean he's regressed and he hasn't eclipsed last year's receiving yardage total from last year, and his production on a per snap basis is failure. And MVS, yes, he's been bad, but he is what he is, and he's always been what he is. And this team wasn't asking Marquez Valdes-Scantling to be their middle of the field target monster. They were asking him to run vertical away from a safety. And while he has failed to do that this year, I still think, the other two's absence, like the Chiefs would be winning a lot of football games if both of those two guys had taken a step this year. So,
Kent, we do not agree. I would put Kadarius Toney third on this list. It is in part because the dude missed the entirety of training camp, and you had that time to begin recalibrating. I don't know what the actual truth is, but they keep talking about like, well, it's mostly health, and then they use him as Diet Deebo Samuel for a couple weeks after. I do think there's something to be said in terms of the Chiefs buying into a higher value for Kadarius Toney there, but that turned into Kadarius Toney gadget player again so fast that I just kind of doubt again what the foundation of all of that was.
It was probably the foundation of it was probably him being in training camp and not hurt again.
No. I mean, I know what the foundation of even that belief was. But yes, absolutely.
Yeah, no, I think you want to know something? I think they thought he was going to be healthy. I think they thought they could manage his soft tissue issues.
They have nobody to blame but themselves for that. I mean, I find myself being a Kadarius Toney straight up apologist more often than anything, and I wasn't betting on him playing 16, 17 games. That's crazy. It's certainly not being a high workload guy, all of that.
Yeah.
But so and maybe also a little bit of it is that just that when Kadarius Toney is involved and the ball's not going through his hands or his toes not going over the line, he is still, I think, the most dynamic player on the offense outside of Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes, I suppose. And certainly with the ball in his hands, it's him, period. So I guess I can't quit Kadarius Toney, and that puts him third on my list. I would put MVS at 2 because it has been his standard is, you're right that he's always been this guy, but he's been a worse version of this guy when there was at least some thought of, hey man, can you do 10% of the things a veteran wide receiver is supposed to do in this offense if you're the only veteran in this wide receiver room? And he has failed at all of that. He has failed at that at the podium, at the camera. He has failed at that on the field with his feet, with his hands, with running towards the safety for some reason. That's a catastrophe. But I have Sky Moore number 1 pretty clearly because I am taking the preseason hype on Sky Moore even more to heart than you're taking the preseason hype on Kadarius Toney. he's the guy that Andy Reid talked about publicly on NFL Network and at the podiums in the tent in St. Joe. It was the logic, I think, was losing Juju Smith-Schuster. How much of that can Sky Moore now step up and be cheaper, younger, long-term, and do so many more of these things in the intermediate space that we are expecting him to do with a second year in this system? Don't worry about year one. This offense is hard. It's a red shirt year for rookies. Year two, we're going to see a Sky Moore who leads the Chiefs in receptions, or at least Chiefs receivers in receptions, I should say. That was my expectation for him, and you can't play him right now, and you can't find him when he's on the field.
That's fair. I mean, Sky is
three pretty good arguments for three receivers who have had pretty terrible years.
Well, and Sky is trending towards unplayable. Like, and I talked about like on the social media is like after the fumble, like the Chiefs needed to go back to Rasheed and continue to use him because they need that guy because he's their best wide receiver and it's not even close. And Kadarius Toney still has value for this team, and he still has a way to make an impact on this game in a way that Sky Moore can.
And I completely agreed with your angle on that Rashee Rice and Kadarius Toney are both, to some extent, in the got to keep going back to him bucket. Maybe not, you need to build your offense around them in 2024, but right now, they're the guys that need the football. And that's a very short list in this offense.
I posited the theory that Sky Moore should consider bulking up and playing running back after this year. That's where I'm at with Sky Moore. Casey from KC, is there an instance of the NFL banning a referee from calling a certain team's game? Carl Sheffer's history screwing the Chiefs is long-standing, and was there a Bills defensive offside play right after that not called? So, we might forget that the Chiefs were the beneficiary of a Carl Sheffer's controversial call 9 months ago in the Super Bowl. So, I understand what you're saying. Carl Sheffers what's the ref that Chris Paul hates? I forgot his name.
I've deleted his name because Chris Paul's not a Son anymore. Scott Foster. So, like, yeah, there's a little bit of Scott Fostering happening with Carl Sheffers right now, I think. Great pull.
Thank you. But yeah, I mean, the Chiefs won a Super Bowl with Carl Sheffers ref in the game. And yeah, you know.
The only thing I would add is that I do think there's a tiny bit of it that probably did boil up into everything in the frustration against the Bills, because there is some groundwork there in that relationship not being great. And so when Andy Reid is fuming about no communication between him and the refs, I do think that has an impact on it. They're not going to take him out.
We'll see what happens this year, right? We'll see if he gets into a playoff game, and if we run into the same problems, then I'm ready to go nuclear on Carl Sheffers. And if we have a Scott Foster situation, we're going to take a break. We'll be back right after this.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network.
21 questions here on KC Sports Network. Thank you, everybody that's listening, subscribing, supporting KC Sports Network. We really do genuinely appreciate you, and we're answering your questions right now. We get this one from Arrow, and it's probably the most important question of the day. Who do you think was in Andy Reid's Spotify Wrapped?
Question, man. I think right now he's got to be in some real emo stuff, right? Like some real maybe some old sad country, and maybe it's a little Taking Back Sunday, because it's something the Chiefs haven't done in a couple of weeks. You got lots of options.
Cook,
you got a lot of choices here. I don't know. I loved this question and did not think to actually make sure that I was getting good potential answers here, but I could see
that one was perfect.
That was there. That's off the top. I could see some we got some sad Johnny Cash in that playlist right now.
He's driving
to work at 3:30 in the morning listening to Johnny Cash do a cover of 9 Inch Nails. He's never heard 9 Inch Nails before in his life, but he has been hurt, and right now he is overseeing an empire of dirt offensively.
I went very surface level and just said Cheeseburger in Paradise.
That's great. I bet Andy Reid is a Jimmy Buffett guy, though.
And this isn't Spotify Wrapped for November and December. This is Spotify Wrapped for the season for 2023. So he's probably We Are the Champions by Queen.
Yeah, that's in there somewhere.
Yeah,
that's on his top 150 or whatever the playlist is. What was your Spotify Wrapped like?
If I told you I didn't do it.
I would say to do it now.
I'll I don't know if I have the time. I'll go do it later. I listen to a lot of Nate Bargatze, his podcast.
His music is terrible.
I thought they do podcasts because like people
do, but we're
screenshots of.
We're clearly talking about music here.
Oh,
that's fine, man. I don't mean to put you on the spot. You got some, weird stuff on there you're not proud of.
It's not that bad. It's not that bad.
That's fine. I'll go ahead and take it from here. Thank you.
Go for it. Yeah.
New Front Bottoms album this year was great. You are who you hang out with, straight up the alley of anyone who actually likes Front Bottoms. If you don't,
I asked you about them. I'm pretty sure I was like, "What is this? What is this?"
I think I was wearing some merch at one point, and you thought it was a profane name, and I think it is. Hot Mulligan. Hot Mulligan has completely rejuvenated modern pop punk. It's some of the best that exists, but it's stuff that's come out in the last couple of years.
I got
Death Cab album was great.
I got a couple. All right, and there's a couple of throwbacks here. Okay, so there's a band called Wolfpack.
Sure.
Ever heard of them?
I have.
Oh my gosh, they're so good, and they have they're a group of guys. They all, they do their music together, but they all have their separate side projects, and all of their side projects they're actually more like solo artists that come together and do something together. They're doing 6 shows this year. They're all in Brooklyn, and it's 2 shows a day for 3 nights, and that's it. Like that's their entire yeah. So they normally just go do festivals or stuff like that. They're fantastic. Okay, I got 2 more for you. So did you know Switchfoot had a 25-year anniversary of
Beautiful Letdown.
Of the Beautiful Letdown? Did you?
I did. I've listened to this.
You've listened to all these other bands remake it?
Yes, I have. I have some very hot takes.
Okay, have you listened to the Dayglow version of Adding to the Noise?
Yes.
Banger.
Yeah, it was my sort of unproud opinion of a lot of that album is that it made me want to go re-listen to the original Beautiful Letdown album, and I did that several times. I went back and listened to a lot of other older Switchfoot. I'm not saying that they had like a drop off at a certain point, but I kind of dropped off at a certain point. You get me through at least Oh Gravity though. That album, unreal. Everything before it, stupendous.
I'll just Gravity was on one of the video games I used to play too. Oh Gravity was.
Right.
It's a baseball game. I think it was a baseball game.
Right.
Anyways, the Beautiful Letdown. I don't really care what Switchfoot did after the Beautiful Letdown because it is a Beautiful Letdown after the Beautiful Letdown. I'm sorry.
Whoa!
That is a perfect album.
Versus had some had some good songs.
I mean,
Hurricane was okay, a little poppy.
You can't replicate the magic that they captured in that one album. But anyways,
MLB 7, maybe MLB The Show 07?
Yes, it's the show.
That's the show. Was it MLB 07 The Show? I don't remember that naming convention.
MLB The Show 07. I don't know. All I know is that album is incredible, and all the remakes of it, fantastic. It's a nostalgia piece, but it's also all these bands paying homage. It's got guys from 21 Pilots. It's got Relient K.
Anyone was what got me in. I was thrilled.
Dayglow, John Bellion. But there's another band. If you listen, there's a band called Colony House as well.
We talked about Colony.
Yes, they're incredible, and they also happen to be Stephen Curtis Chapman's kids, which is like a very niche reference that only a few people that are going to heaven are gonna get. And that's that's okay. But yeah. Also, they produced some absolute bangers as well.
All right, let me tell you about Oh Gravity real quick here, Kent. Oh Gravity, you go Oh Gravity title track, American Dream. Which, by the way, I was making Renee listen to some of this album driving around. Also went back and listened to 5 Score and 7 Years Ago by Relient K. So formative for me.
Yep.
Still really excellent.
All of it.
Here's the track list for Oh Gravity. Oh Gravity, American Dream, Dirty Second Hands, Awakening, Circles, Amateur Lovers, Faust Midas, and Myself. I mean, that is like a killer's-esque.
I don't think I could have named anything but Oh Gravity. I can't hear any of those songs in my head, so I'll have to go back and listen to this album.
You can go listen to Faust Midas and Myself again. That's a real sort of storytelling kind of ballad, kind of grimy. There's some grime in this album that's very good.
I fell off.
Not like rap grime, just to be clear.
That was like I had just too much T-Pain running through my head during 07. Yeah, sure. I think that's really what happened is just T-Pain just took over my life.
It's all ebbs and flows, and it did not occur to me until my recent re-listen how sort of like aware of late stage capitalism so much of Switchfoot music is about. It is a wild. They are a wildly, surprisingly progressive group from a long time. Like smart, high levels. It's really good.
I was listening to lyrics from the Beautiful Letdown, and I was like, wow, I didn't realize it was that deep.
Didn't pick all this up when I was 12.
I was a teenager, very surface level. I'm very surface level with music, period. Like I'm not a lyrics guy where I'm really absorbing a ton of lyrics.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, you guys just mentioned T-Pain being through your head a lot, so I get it. Like that's a good vibe, but not as
I found the Beatles in 2007 as well, so there's
they
that.
got some great stuff, those four fellas.
Yeah, they've done a few decent things. Not nearly to the level of T-Pain
or Switchfoot for that matter, but yeah, close.
Yeah. Okay. We get derailed. So
21 questions. Is that not what this show is for? I felt like that tangent was what the show is for.
We got a lot of questions still. We got to probably
Let's
speed.
go. Rapid fire. Let's go. I'm ready.
We're just gonna speed. Yeah, we're gonna speed round a little bit.
Vroom.
What word or phrases did you wear out during the game this week? Any?
I think I got quiet over the course of the game this week.
I stayed quiet. Actually, even like as that play was getting called back, I didn't get overly excited. I have this weird thing with I don't know how I watch games now. Power rank KCSN's the best KCSN hair. Nate's mustache is 1, and we can argue everything else. That's so
I would say Nate's facial hair is 1, and then your back hair is 2.
That's a good point. Just DRK. Cut bench start. Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney, Justin Watson.
I'm starting Kadarius Toney and playing Justin Watson and benching Sky Moore right now.
Cut bench start. So I'm cutting. I'm cutting Sky. I am starting Kadarius. I'm starting Kadarius, and I'm benching Justin Watson. I guess I don't like.
In a very unofficial 2023 only standpoint, that is my answer too.
I have a take that might have been used on the Casey Laboratory show yesterday. I can't remember. I'm not positively sure, but it was interesting to me how they tried to use Justin Watson on that motion to try to utilize his speed in some way, shape, or form by getting him a head start, getting him a running start. Like they're trying to get him involved more, but like he's plateaued as well, and like that's kind of just not a thing as much as I think it used to be like before Rashee Rice's ascent. Bones Jackson, do we think Mahomes was so pissed in bringing up letting him play because of the non-call last week? I think he was frustrated with that. I think he was frustrated with his wide receivers continuing to fail this team and him not being enough to elevate guys that drop the football, fumble the football, make mental errors. So I think it was just a lot of frustration boiling over all at the same time, and he wasn't about to go off on Kadarius Toney, so he went off on the referees. That's what I think.
Hard agree. I think if you flip the order of these last two games, they go exactly the same way. I think the outburst comes after the Packers non-call, and they try to swallow their emotions after the Bills game. If the Bills game was first.
Matthew McNabb he asks if the Lab Guys versus Only Weird Games crew played 3-on-3 basketball, who would win? We've already answered this question the last time, and it is the Lab Guys. I will fight anyone who says otherwise. I'm sorry. I love you, Josh, Nate, and Seth, but that's
it's the Lab, and it has nothing to do with you.
I would love to challenge any group of non-former professional athletes in the KC Mediascape to a 3-on-3 basketball tournament between the Lab and ourselves. I'm just going to
Lab would be tough to beat. I think we have a decent little 6-man group if we want to try to take on, other outlets or whatever. I feel like
Nick Schaefer, he has nothing on us.
He was not high on my list of guys I'm looking to take an elbow from, but I'm with it.
Yeah. It's Schaefer, Jacobs, Ladd. Let's go.
Oh man, let's book.
Corey Peter, Elf on the Shelf does wonders getting my kids to act right in December. If Andy invited an elf to the wide receiver room to get the receivers to get their act together, what should he name it? I have it.
I'm working on it.
Can I go with mine?
Yeah.
Bienemy on a chimney.
There it is. Yep. I was having a really hard time rhyming with Bienemy, and I don't think I'm going to do better than chimney.
That's exactly what they need, though. I think it works great. Like they should try it at least.
Eric in the Barracks is the closest I'm gonna get, but it's absolutely we're on the exact same page.
That's pretty good. Barracks, but how many buildings have barracks anymore?
I'm just using it as longhand, the opposite of shorthand for bedrooms, I guess.
Is that what? Okay, that's okay. Is that what? Okay. All right, Lead 87. Santa Claus is coming to town. What is the top thing you're hoping for on your wish list this Christmas season? Not necessarily Chiefs related, but could be. Do you have anything?
Not anything immediately coming to mind. I've already got great merch from the KCSN collection at sandlotgoods.com. I've got Tucker's Sleepy Boy Society merch, so that's usually what I ask for. No, I like surprises because it does sort of make it a more like personal thing. I want something at this point. I'll typically just kind of get it. So I don't think there's anything in real life that I know about. And I would love to get some extra tacky gloves for the wide receivers.
Some more KCSN merch from Sandlot.com would be an absolutely wonderful. Sandlotgoods.com, especially considering the proceeds go to the KCSN Foundation, which is always a wonderful thing to donate to as well. I bought myself a Blackstone for Christmas.
What?
A Blackstone? Do you know what a Blackstone is? Okay, just have one kid and you'll start.
I don't want to do that either. So I'm super hoping that's not what I get for Christmas.
Oh yeah, that would be. You'd be in for quite a surprise. Anyways, it's a giant outdoor grill that you can like deep fry you can fry burgers on. You can fry stuff on it. It's make ginormous breakfasts. I can't wait to use it. I'm really looking forward to it.
Oh yeah. It looks like it looks sort of like a flat top, right? I mean,
yeah, it's a flat top grill.
Yeah, love it.
Rugby Fox. This is for the self-proclaimed Kirkland King. What is the best Costco deal you've ever scored? A Hawaiian vacation, with a rental car included and like $300 in resort credit, and all of that was worth about what the rental car wound up being if you had just booked the rental car on its own. Rental cars in Hawaii are insane, like absolutely insane.
Hard to get more cars on the island, I imagine.
That and it's a supply demand thing. So I got a ridiculous deal booking in advance, like a year on a Hawaiian vacation for my wife and I's 10-year anniversary. Kyle C asks who would win a KCSN combine.
Matt.
It's
right?
Matt.
Right? I mean, there's no shame in that. There's no shame in the guy who like will put videos of his impressive
workouts
on the internet. Like, I'm not ashamed about that. Who's second?
Oh.
I want to say BJ, honestly. That's kind of my next.
I think I could get BJ. I think I'd be up there. BJ would be up there. Craig,
like typical NFL combine.
Yeah.
My fast twitch muscles are not my strength.
Craig says he would disintegrate if he tried any of that stuff.
I don't believe him. He's being unnecessarily humble, which is weird because I think Craig is great.
I too think Craig is great.
There's people who tweeted at him. Maybe if more people tweeted at Craig that Craig is great, and maybe he would believe it himself that he's also a physical specimen. Tweet Craig, you're great and also a physical specimen.
That actually turns out to be the grumpiest that Craig gets is when people compliment him on his greatness. So I would really applaud anyone to continue to push this.
Yeah, I haven't fully gotten to see the full scope of all of it, but it's a little weird and still kind of funny to me. So I haven't. We'll see when I stop enjoying that bit.
Mike Denny, this question is for Briscoe. After being given data on how to be more active in the Discord, you have not changed your behavior on said Discord despite your goal. Would you like to become a wide receiver for a professional football team?
All I was going to say is, man, if you don't think I have plenty of experience knowing ways I could improve as a person and then don't even attempt to do that, but that's exactly right. I will be there. I run a very poor 40. But I will, you know what I can promise you, Kit? I will not unnecessarily run two safeties.
If
I am blessed to find grass, I will stand there and turn towards Patrick Mahomes.
I was just gonna say if the criteria is just not running near safeties, you won't do that either because you won't be able to get there in time.
Yes, that's right. I'll take a screen target and then my death will be familiar to follow.
I like it. Nuja asks, why does it hurt less losing to the Bills than it did losing to the Packers?
Don't know. expectations. You think the Bills, maybe you believe in the Bills more than you believe in the Packers, but I don't feel that way because I feel like the Chiefs were maybe a little sleepwalky against the Packers at times, and they were not against Buffalo. They just still didn't put it together.
A little optimism to close this thing out. Cheddar Bob, why am I kind of stoked for the idea of Mahomes going into Baltimore for the AFC Championship game and ripping their hearts out? Because it would be just like, and this is like the back of my head always has this thought that like Mahomes is going to figure things out, right?
And that's been a good bet throughout his entire NFL career.
Because he's never disappointed us ever. So why would he do it now? And so even amidst all this stuff, it could be like, hey, look, this team winds up going to the Super Bowl. And we're just like, well, Mahomes is going to figure things out. He always does. But yeah, I don't know. Like it's still in the range of outcomes that this team could like win the Super Bowl. They have some of the best odds of the NFL. So
yeah, absolutely. I think the reason you're stoked about it though is because you forget who he's throwing to. Like because you're saying Patrick Mahomes, not the 2023 Chiefs offense, and you're still kind of betting on them to do something they haven't done yet in terms of making you believe in themselves. So,
thanks for
sorry, I ruined your
negative right off the top.
The best Costco deal I've ever scored. I think they've got these naked chicken nuggets and they've got some gyro meat, and the Spindrift is the best sparkling water I've ever had. It's better than the Kirkland brand, but I got them at Costco.
That is 100% correct takes. You should try making your own buffalo sauce and tossing those naked chicken bites in your own buffalo sauce, because that's what I started doing with Costco Hot Honey, Costco Franks, and Costco Butter. That is going to do it for 21 questions.
That's what Ken does with his naked bites.
That's exactly right. Can't go any worse than that. We'll catch you later.